And there we go. Hello, everybody. Thank you for watching. A lot of potential things to talk about. Going to wait for a little bit for some people to get in here. So, again, thank you for watching. And those that I got some comments from those that watched last night about the magnetic poles potentially flipping, and I'll touch on that a little bit here this evening. And had a request. I think it was either the last time I was live or the time before that, had a request about doing a panel again, and somebody wanted to hop on a panel. So if you are interested in hold on. If you're interested in hopping on a panel, hello, Sissy. Hello, Renee. I'm in chat at the moment. If you're interested in coming onto a panel, we'll do a recorded Zoom meeting, if you will, and we'll discuss. It'll be recorded, and then we'll air it afterwards, and we'll air it as a premiere so that we can engage in chat and potential questions or comments as we watch. So if you want to do that, let me know in the chat, or to get a hold of me. It is americandufus at gmail.com is the email, and that's probably the easiest way. Or you can leave a comment. Sometimes I get busy and I space out and forget to read the comments, and I apologize for that. So that's kind of the, hit the like, hit the share, definitely hit the like. And if you're a subscriber, thank you very much for subscribing. Hit the notification bell. If you're not a subscriber, consider doing so. So good evening to everyone. And let's just start out with where we ended off last night. The idea that the magnetic poles are going to flip. Some people that saw what we showed last night automatically assumed that when the magnetic poles flip, there's going to be mass catastrophes. We can't discount that. We can't rule that out. But at the same time, we can't, we can't say that's what's going to happen, simply because the poles haven't flipped totally in 720,000 years, whereas in the past they flipped about every 250,000 years. So for some reason there hasn't been a pole flip, and we are overdue. What you see here on the screen is the tracking of the movement of the North Magnetic Pole, and it's been going on for a very, very, very long time. And normally what happens is the poles, the magnetic poles move, and then they bounce back. And there's scientific terms for all that, but just so you get the idea, okay? They move and then they bounce back. Well, this time they're continuing to move, and normally the magnetic North Pole is up in extreme northern Canada. Been there for a long time. Moved around a little bit up around there, as we'll see in an upcoming map, and then started the move towards in the direction of Russia. So right down here in the bottom is the 40-degree mark. Those of you that are familiar with longitude and latitude of the Earth, that's the way we take measurements. That's the way GPS functions. That's the way surveying works. Navigation, a lot of things depend upon longitude and latitude. Well, it's talking about the 40-degree latitude mark. The pole is getting near the 40-degree latitude mark. Here you see where the poles have come before in reference, not necessarily the same path, but the distances that they've come before and always snapped back. And that line has been crossed. That where the last
observatory. I want to lay it down.
The last known snapback was. We have a really good idea when it's going to hit that 40 mark. Why does that matter? Because the lines above 40 degrees are heavy lines, okay? Heavy meaning harder for the magnetic field to move through. From 40 degrees down are the lesser lines. It's less resistance for the magnetic pole to move. The guy who's behind this diagram has an experiment that we're going to show in an upcoming episode that basically proves just through magnetic principles that once the magnet gets past that 40-degree mark, it rapidly flips. Okay. Now that could bring up a lot of other things. Also tested briefly on a video last night that
a short-term reversal of the fields, and the
I wanted to play just a couple of seconds of. It shows the magnetic pole shifts, okay, from 1600 to 2015. What we just saw, I hope I'm still sharing this. Let me check. I wish I still have my second laptop. So, okay, I'm not sharing it. Here we go. This is okay. Hang with me. We're doing it live. Not that it would be a lot smoother if it wasn't, but hello to everybody. Hello to Olivia. Has anybody else hopped on here? Okay. Let me see. Over in the chat real quick while I'm here. Oh, I can't do that and do this at the same time. My apologies. I'll be over in the chat in just a second. What we see diagrammed is the movement of the pole, magnetic pole shift, both the South Pole and the North Pole. And you can see it moved around Canada for a while before it started a hectic rush towards Siberia, possibly.
Been acting strangely, or perhaps appropriately.
But you can see this is the blue is the North Pole, the red is the South Pole. Because of the erratic movement, because of the way it was moving down and then started to move across towards Russia, I questioned whether Russia has done something nefarious that has affected the magnetic field of the Earth. and I've seen some stuff that might prove that. Nobody in the open source science community accepts that theory, because it would take something really powerful. But there's a possibility Russia might have done that. Anyway, it's not really important. The important thing is it is moving, and it doesn't appear that there's anything that can be done about it. As you see, it's rapidly shooting across towards Russia. Let me back this up just a little bit, and we'll see it again. By the way, this is the worst day ever in pigeon racing history. 5,000 birds vanished. Homing pigeons or carrier pigeons use the magnetic field to get to a location and then get back to where their home base is, so to speak. And 5,000 of them, they race them in flocks, and 5,000 of them disappeared. They got off course, and just all of them are gone. Elephants are marching in a manner that they normally don't move in, and they're marching with the adjusting magnetic fields. Again, these are just things to think about. Okay. Here we go. Again, 1600 to 2015. And you'll see a sudden jump in the northern polar movement towards Russia. And you'll see in the south that the South Pole has already moved out of Antarctica. And watch how rapid it's moving. And one of the experiments, the closer it got to 40 degrees, the faster it moved. So at the moment, it's going to hit the 40-degree mark in March of 2023. Will it accelerate and have a rapid flip, and which potentially impacts everything from, potentially the thermodynamics of the crust and the mantle of Earth, earthquakes, volcanoes, or will it just simply be the internet's gone, the satellites are gone? That's our best case scenario. Chances are more likely that the internet's gone, satellites are gone, electricity's gone. The description in the Bible of Armageddon, in the book of the revelation of Jesus Christ given to John of Patmos, in that last book of the Bible, there's talk of Armageddon, the battle to end all battles, the last battle on earth. And the talk in that is everyone's battling on horses and shields, and it's a massive army. And yet we're living in these modern times. So how could that Bible prophecy of that end time come to pass? Well, if in just a few days, relatively speaking, 9 months, and I think it's 9 months and 13 days. And I'm not going to be talking about this every single episode from here till March, but I'm going to keep reminding you that, hey, this is potentially coming. This is coming. Now, what happens after this, we don't know, because the last time it happened was probably 12,000 years ago, possibly 6,000 years ago, in what was known as the Noah event. Science is pretty much accepting that now, that there was a potential water event. And we're going to show you how that potential water event probably happened scientifically, because to me, God inspires science. God built the universe created on mathematics. That's my opinion, okay? And it's something to think about. That's not what this is particularly about. But that last battle. So if the magnetic field is dropped to, say, 10%, I'm going to show you, I'm going to play this video out here in a few moments and let you see how it drops. If it drops to 10%, we're down to about 80% now from where we were. So we've still got about 80% of what our past electromagnetic field has been throughout most of human history, unless human history is a lot older than we think it is, and that is a distinct possibility. It is a distinct possibility that that humans have been surviving in various locations around the world for longer than science knows. All right, let's just put it that way. But anyway, if there is a battle of Armageddon, if Gog, Magog, all the armies that Gog and Magog and Satan and the Antichrist and the beast can gather together, if all of those armies come towards Jerusalem, as is predicted, if this happens after after March of 2023, and again, as it gets closer, it potentially accelerates. So it may be sooner than March. It may be January. It may be February. It was April when I started talking about this. Okay, so it has escalated, and it is monitored very closely. Anyway, if the magnetic field falters to a point where a coronal mass ejection, a CME, even a mild one, or a major solar flare, or a mini nova, these are all eruptions from the sun. If an electromagnetic pulse is released, if any of those things happen, then all the electricity is going down and the electricity is not going to come back. And if you're going to attack Israel and Jerusalem, there's going to be a lot of people on horseback. Just something to think about. Upcoming, we're going to talk about the rapture a little bit, not tonight, but in the future, because I think there's some information that, having studied the Bible quite a bit, I think there's some information that people should consider, as I always do, something to think about. Okay. Quick news headlines before I hop back over into, actually, let me hop back over here into chat right now and say hi to anybody and everybody that's here. Again, hello to Sissy, and Sissy, thank you so much for everything you do. I hope everybody's well in your state, and everybody that, you know, we kind of have in common as far as communications, and all your family and everybody. So thank you for everything. I saw Renee, and hello to everybody watching that's not in the chat. If you want to, if you want to come on for a couple of minutes and you got something that you really want to talk about, I'm going to have a few minutes at the end if anybody wants to do that. If you want to be in a panel, we haven't had a panel in a while, and if you'd like to be on a panel, let me know in the chat or send me an email. And I want to get to some headlines here. I'm going to talk about this committee hearing in just a moment, and I might play a video, I might not. But there are a couple of stories that broke today that need to be talked about. The gun violence is on a daily basis almost. It averages more than one a day and has for a long time. But there was another mass killing today. 3 people killed, others injured. It was at a business in Maryland, so it wasn't a random act. It was probably jealousy or revenge or some other individual motivation, but we just don't know yet. And the other thing I wanted to mention, that the police officer and we covered this story back when it happened, the shooting of Patrick La Jolla. Grand Rapids officer has been charged with second-degree murder in the shooting of Patrick La Jolla. So a couple of things that might have missed the radar that more attention needs to be brought to. Also, a man was trying to enter an Alabama elementary school earlier today and was shot and killed by police. I don't know how much attention all these things are going to get because of the attention the January 6th hearing is going to get. It was a lot more than I expected, to be honest with you. It was a lot more damning than I expected it to be. And it was a lot more prosecutorial than I thought it was going to be. And it's going to make people think, people that watch it, it's going to make them think. Hello, Pat Tolliver. Hey, Apollo. Apollo, while you're in here, I wanted to do a panel. And if you want to be on a panel again, since you were one of the OGs, one of the original guys, let me know. You text me later or whatever. And if you don't, I'd like to do a one-on-one interview because we haven't done that in a while. So one or the other, if you would, and if you're up to it, because I think there's a lot of stuff going on in our world. So did I miss anybody here that hopped into the chat? Okay, I didn't. Oh, so real. Hello, oh, so real. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining. Again, Olivia. I hope everybody's doing well. And you all feel free to chat amongst yourselves. And if you got any questions or comments, thoughts, or if you want to hop on here for a couple of minutes, let me know and we'll make that happen. I want to do one more quick thing here. I do want to show something. Let me make sure I got it. Okay. All right. Got it ready to go. I want to show just one quick, it's about a 2-minute, 2.5, 3-minute clip from tonight's hearing.
We will show you what they have said.
Just in case you haven't seen any of it, I'd recommend, if you haven't seen it, you go back and watch it. They take a 10-minute break in the middle of it, and otherwise it's about 2 hours long. But a lot of footage was shown that hasn't been seen before, and um, I found this very powerful.
Tonight and in the weeks to come, you will see evidence of what motivated this violence, including directly from those who participated in this attack. You will see video of them explaining what caused them to do it. You will see their posts on social media. We will show you what they have said in federal court. On this point, there is no room for debate. Those who invaded our Capitol and battled law enforcement for hours were motivated by what President Trump had told them, that the election was stolen and that he was the rightful president. President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack. You will also hear about plots to commit seditious conspiracy on January 6th, a crime defined in our laws as conspiring to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to oppose by force the authority thereof. Multiple members of two groups, the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys, have been charged with this crime for their involvement in the events leading up to and on January 6th. Some have pled guilty. The attack on our Capitol was not a spontaneous riot. Intelligence available before January 6th identified plans to, quote, invade the Capitol, occupy the Capitol, and take other steps to halt Congress's count of electoral votes that day. In our hearings to come, we will identify elements of those plans, and we will show specifically how a group of Proud Boys led a mob into the Capitol building on January 6th. Tonight, I'm going to describe for you some of what our committee has learned and highlight initial findings you will see this month in our hearings. As you hear this, all Americans should keep in mind this fact. On the morning of January 6th, President Donald Trump's intention was to remain President of the United States, despite the lawful outcome of the 2020 election and in violation of his constitutional obligation to relinquish power. Over multiple months, Donald Trump oversaw and coordinated a sophisticated 7-part plan to overturn the presidential election and prevent the transfer of presidential power. In our hearings, you will see evidence of each element of this plan.
So, really powerful opening from Republican Liz Cheney. And again, if you haven't seen it, consider going back and watching it. A lot of things in there tonight in this hearing. One of the police officers testified live, and a documentarian that was filming and following the Proud Boys testified live under subpoena, and videos that again haven't been seen. And I honestly thought those that have watched the show for a long time, you might have been watching. We watched it live when it happened, and all those YouTube videos have been taken down. But we had a lot of stuff on there from a lot of different angles, a lot of different live stream. Nothing like what was shown tonight. It was just I shouldn't say nothing like. It was just a much more graphic version and a much more detailed version as far as where things were happening, what the timeline of things happening, how much had happened before Trump even gave his speech, showing that it wasn't spontaneous at all. Communications showing that nothing about it was spontaneous. It was all planned out. And of course, if you watch the show, we talked about that from October, when I first started getting leaked information that groups might be considering interceding if Trump didn't win the election, because I said, it was looking like he wasn't going to win, which I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe Joe Biden was going to beat him. But thankfully, that's what happened, or at least thankfully, in my opinion. And after you see what this committee unveils, because tonight was just the beginning. Tonight was the opening statement. Tonight was, this is what you're going to see coming, basically. And they're laying out a pretty compelling case. Whether it moves to a criminal case or not, or just a committee finding at the end, we'll see how it all plays out. So, hello to JB. Anybody have anything? Okay. No questions or anything. You guys go ahead and chat for a couple of minutes. I'm gonna go back, because sometimes, especially with lives, people hop in the middle and they don't get any of the information from the front and from the first part of the video. And this knowledge that the magnetic poles are going to shift is something that I think needs to be spread around. It's like the movie Don't Look Up. All right. The governments aren't really talking about this, or the last government official to talk about this was the head of the European Union space program. And he came out and said, the magnetic poles are moving. They're gonna flip. The magnetic field is much weaker than we anticipated, and he was immediately fired. So this is all coming from scientists, open source scientists, not using their real names. But you can watch for a few minutes, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that these people have knowledge. And most of the people that I monitor, are we watching this? Okay. Most of the people that I monitor people from different fields. And one's an astrophysicist. This guy is an astrophysicist. The other is a professor of magnetics and electronics. One of them is an astronomer. Looks at the stars and planets and all of that. And all of them are, geologists. Everybody's saying it sure looks like something's going to happen. And again, Elon Musk trying to get off the planet really hard over the past few years. I don't know if you noticed or not. It was just kind of wham. Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are having a space race and it's not under the guise of it being for space tourism, and how incredibly non-profitable that would be on a long run or big scale, or even the individual launches. Why are they trying to get off the planet so much? And if they can't get off the planet fast enough, Elon Musk is digging a bunch of tunnels, and Jeff Bezos is hollowing out a mountain. This knowledge has been around for a long time. The knowledge that the poles shift, what could happen when they do shift, what has happened in the past, and how what happened in the past is lined up with the shifts. And this shows just a little bit of that. What this is, okay, I'm actually going to let him talk here for a few moments. Thank you all for watching. Stick around for this. It's pretty interesting. What you see here is basically the Earth's magnetic field, and the Earth is moving this way, and you can see the magnetic field trail off in our distance, much as you would see debris and dust and particles trailing off from a comet or any other object moving through space. This is how it is normally, okay? And let's just listen for a couple of minutes.
Are you gathering supplies? For those who know the severity of what's coming, it helps to know what you can and cannot plan for. Some things are pretty obvious, like if you see the greatest of all electromagnetic blasts from the sun, do not then go and get on an airplane. If an impactor lands on your head, there isn't much you're going to be able to do. Same thing happens if mantle heaving or other processes send your land into the sea like Atlantis. Or if you happen to be in the unlucky fifth or so of the sun-facing side of the planet when that great solar flash occurs. It's not even worth thinking about those things. But what you should be planning for is a repeat of the alternation of polar and tropical fossils in the Arctic, the invasion of the land by the oceans, and the loss of most of the comforts and securities that allow our lives to play out as they do. First and foremost, you need to be prepared for the solar kill shot. This encompasses and exceeds storm readiness and earthquake readiness, and basically involves what is destined to happen someday, but is far more likely now while Earth's magnetic field is tanking in strength during the ongoing excursion. No stores, no ATMs, no gas station.
Okay, so at this time, it was an excursion, and the poles have excursions quite often, often as far as history of everything, and it seems like it's about every 6,000 years, and the math is something with ties to the Bible that you'll find interesting when we do an upcoming episode on it.
No refrigeration, AC, heat, water from the tap, no phone. Just you and everyone else, hungry and thirsty, quickly learning to look for the loud generators of prepared.
Sorry about interrupting this. I know it bugs some of you. Stay with me for just a second and I'll let it play so you can get into it. We are going to get massive heat, temperature wise, definitely in the far west of the country and in the southwest and possibly to the Gulf Coast, the western part of the Gulf, Texas. And there's going to be a giant bubble of hot air that won't let the sun's radiation get back out, and just going to keep bouncing it back down and back down. Just going to keep heating things up. This dome, this high pressure hot air dome. And eventually that's going to move. And the Midwest, we're going to get some incredibly hot, humid weather coming early part, mid of next week. Okay, this massive hot amount of air is going to come across the United States. At some point, somewhere in the next week, a city is probably going to lose power. Now, if they lose power and it's for a 6-hour period, depending on when that 6-hour period is, things are not going to collapse. If it's a 72-hour period, if it's 3 days with no power in a city and no power coming back as far as what's in the people's heads in the city, and many of them not knowing why the power's even out, possibly. We're going to see how quickly things break down, and that's coming here very soon. At some point, some city is going to have a situation where they have nothing, no power, everything he said at the beginning of this that I started. And it could be coming here very soon. Very soon.
People. Don't let that be you. The storm and earthquake preparedness principles are appropriate for the scenario, but must be expanded to an extreme timeline. You need to have considerable food and water supplies, as the power and most of civilization aren't coming back after the big one from the sun. You need to have seeds and pre-industrial tools to start again. Self-defense tools and those for shelter are needed, as well as clothes for various climates, as those will continue to shift more extremely. Have a plan for bugging in and bugging out. Just know that your castle is the best place to defend, if you can. In a big city, presume you can't. Don't be in shell shock when something happens. Do a practice run. The hail is going to continue to break records. This year it's already smashed through roofs numerous times.
We showed on a past episode here, hail bigger than almost volleyball size. It continues to break records. And I discussed that the biblical prophecies of rocks falling from the sky, and everybody automatically assumes that that's going to have to be a meteor or an asteroid, or we're going to know what's happened, or we're going to know when it's coming. Don't necessarily believe that, especially if you see some of these major hail events called gorilla hail. Relatively new phenomenon, because you'd hear baseball size hail. Well, now baseball size hail is coming down like regular size hail, and every once in a while there's one of these gorilla hail events, and that's a potentially fulfillment of biblical prophecy of stones falling from the sky.
Simple underground options are good temporary shelters from cryometeors, as they don't penetrate far into the ground like a space meteor strike would.
Cryometers.
The lightning records will continue, and the metal, water, and crystal underground are going to react, along with the silica-rich magma, as the global electric circuit and high-energy cosmic rays continue to push the ceiling of the charts. A good rule of thumb when it comes to saving something is, will you be able to use it 10 years after the disaster? Now, that's not to say that all electronics should be forgotten, or you shouldn't try to save anything. Batteries, some small devices, they may be very valuable in the intermediate aftermath, at least for a while. You just have to remember that those things are temporary the moment we've gone back to nature. The biggest of solar events may overcome a Faraday cage protection anyway. You need to be putting much more effort towards something between Bronze Age and wagon time survival. Now, that was a lot of preparation points crammed into a word hurricane, but the flotation must be singled out. Honestly, if not for the invasion of the seas, this wouldn't be such...
Okay, I'm going to keep playing here for a few minutes. I'm going to hop over into the chat to see if anybody... make sure you check on people. It is going to be really hot. And it's not just going to be in the West, as they're talking about now, but the West is they're suffering from a 1,000-year drought. That, takes us halfway back to the time of Jesus. That's the last time there was a drought as severe as what's going on right now in the West. And people in California, some people in California are still more worried about being able to water their yards than having enough water to power hydroelectric plants to keep energy coming. Something to think about. The keep in mind this too, something to think about. The guy that's telling you all of this preparation stuff is an astrophysicist. Okay, it's not Country Bob who owns a farm and decides he's going to tell you how to plant a garden. Okay, um, just something to think about. So let me get back over there, and we'll continue.
Such a terrible situation. But this is the single, overarching aspect to the disaster as described by religions, mythology, tons of researchers over the last several decades to centuries, with nearly all of the list attributing the event to a turning over of the Earth. One name on that list is more important than the others, and that's Major White. Maynard E. White, commander of Project Nanook, discovered the magnetic pole, discovered its motion, and the cycles of disaster and great flooding, and tropical and polar fossils alternating in 12,000-year layers of sediment. The documents he took from the Pentagon meetings could only be shared after his passing by his son Ken White in the Great Book. Right now, let's go over the tilt supported by White, Einstein, Cuvier, Deluc, Velikovsky, many who aren't on this list, myself, and Chan Thomas's new pole positions, even if not his description of the wave. His wave from the west, which Vogt would support, is not going to give you alternating fossil layers and doesn't change the polar position or tilt the Earth. When Greenland does tilt to the equator, bringing the new equator to right about here, on the other side of the world.
Okay, they're talking about a tilt of the Earth. The Earth is setting like this right now. They're talking about, this is talking about a tilt of the poles, which explains a whole lot of things, including there are things under Antarctica. Well, yeah, there are, because they were at the equator where it is so much warmer for a long period of time, and Peru, where there are still glaciers in the high Andes from the time Peru was, as you'll see here, Peru's going to be down here at the South Pole. And if this does happen, or when this does happen, basically the North Pole as we know it now and the South Pole as we know it now will shift like this, and they will be at the equators. It's not a 180-degree shift where they go one end to the other. They're looking at a 90-degree shift where it goes from pole as we know it to equator. And those are the land masses shifting. The magnetic poles are shifting as we speak, as we, you know, and are constantly in slight movement just because of the warble of our Earth, the fact that the Earth's not an exact sphere. Okay.
World, it will be East Antarctica tilting up to the equator, putting that right about here. Now, here is something critical to understand about these processes. They have an axis. It controls which waves go which ways in the turning, and the best way to look at this is with a rectangular projector.
This is going to be all about the water. All right, the oceans are where the oceans are. And the oceans are going to move because of the science of water and how water moves. And there's nothing that can be done about that. And there's a whole lot more water than there is land. So in the time of Noah, 6,000 years ago, roughly, the Bible says the earth was covered by water, and it's been pretty well scientifically proven that at least what Noah's area would have been was definitely all covered by water at that time. Does that mean there weren't other areas somewhere around the world that human beings inhabited, that survived this giant, Noah event, this giant flood? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean that at all. What it means is it's sure looking more and more like a lot of the Bible has historical reference, and as well as being the history of the Hebrew religion up into the through the Torah, the Old Testament. So imagine, if you will, a bathtub full of water, and you tilt the bathtub. All the water goes one way, and it's gonna just basically slam into whatever's in front of it. That's what's going to happen if the earth tilts. All the water in all the oceans are going to go one direction. And it's generally thought that the way our earth rotates, that those waters will go from west to east. Okay. Just a brief little tutorial about what he's talking about.
Of the Earth. You get the weird size projection effects at the poles, but the tilting allows you to see how some go down and the other side of the world goes up. This is the image from the community post this last week with the new equator after the tilt. And now a key thing to notice is where it intersects the old equator, the wave line. These points are the axis of the turn. They don't change latitude, they simply rotate, turning 90 degrees. And those points can be found here, with the rotation of tilt shown by the arrows. If you wrap this rectangle back around,
what he's talking about, these two spots, while everything else is going to like move in a direction dependent upon how far they are away from these two spots. The two circles you see, imagine a ball again turning, and while the outer the largest radial point, the largest radius of the ball will turn the most when you're spinning a ball like that. There are 2 points that are just going to be turning. They're not really going to be moving a lot. That's the basic explanation for what he's talking about here.
a sphere, you would find those circles with arrows on exact opposite sides of the world. And this is how we can look around today and know where the initial tidal surge will be and where the sloshback tsunamis will be as well. In general, in the central Atlantic, water will seem to push north as thrust is tilting south into it, while the waters will seem to be heading south at first on the other side of the world as the land is tracking and pushing into it. The worst part is the initial surge against inertia, but after the tilting stops, the exact opposite direction sloshback will occur. So here, I've got blue arrows for the initial tidal surge of the tilt, northward in the western world and southward in the east, and the red arrows show the places where the sloshback tsunamis could be very bad for populated areas. Maybe those elephants know more than we think, especially since they would be fleeing not only the sloshback of the Indian Ocean, but the new freezing pole position near the Bay of Bengal and Sumatra. Are the animals prepping? Are you? I'll see you in the morning. Be safe, everyone.
Okay. I want to run it back because I think I talked through and played through part of what I wanted to show about the no, I guess it wasn't on here. Okay. All right, I'll save that for the next video. Not the necessarily next video, but the next video where we talk about this pole shift and potential magnetic pole shift, and then the actual shifting of the earth. 2 completely different things. They seem to have a connection as far as fossil records and other limited information. It doesn't mean it kind of a recap of all this. It doesn't mean when we get to March of next year, everything's going to end. Doesn't mean it doesn't either, because we really don't know for sure, because humanity hasn't been here other than Noah's flood to document what could potentially happen. We just need to be aware something may happen. And the better you are prepared and the more things you're prepared for, the less panic there's going to be. So we're going to keep talking about it. Hello, Casey. You're not playing strip poker? Well, okay. I assume you're playing on an online casino, and best of luck to you. And if you get aces and eights, I hope it's a full house and it's a winning hand for you. And thank you to Casey, to Sissy, our mods, Carpe Diem on here on occasion moderating. Salty Granny used to come on here. We haven't seen her in a while. I hope everything's okay with her. And anybody have anything? Anybody have anything you want to ask about or me to talk about real quick here, coming up towards the end, because I've been on for almost an hour, and I like to keep it right at or just below an hour if possible, so that more people will watch the replay. But I do love the people in chat. Great people in chat. As long as you're not a crazy person, everything goes pretty smooth over in the chat, and I thank them for that. I've talked a little bit about Israel, about Revelation throughout the episode. I'm going to end with something here. Israel at the moment, we know, has prepared for military maneuvers. They've prepared for an attack against Iran, an attack against Hezbollah, presumably in Lebanon, as well as on the Gaza, and to defend from all sides, basically, because Iran has puppets, if you will, positioned throughout and basically surrounding Israel, which is also a potential Bible prophecy. The armies shall surround Jerusalem. They're not there yet, but don't be surprised if we don't see an attack coming soon. Our friend Chris mentioned this, and I had heard it and mentioned it, but it was confirmed that Iran basically has enough refined uranium to have at least one nuclear weapon, and Israel wants to make sure that doesn't happen, and they're going to have to act soon if they're going to do that. So look for that to happen. The problem with that is among Iran's allies is Russia. And Russia and Syria have been flying joint maneuvers at the Israeli border near the Golan Heights. And Hezbollah is supposedly trying to secretly amass troops near the Israeli border. So tomorrow is Friday. It's officially Friday here. Happy Friday to you. And Friday is the holy day in the Muslim faith, and Israel likes to attack on Fridays. So something big could be happening. Something big could be coming. Also, something big could be coming out of Russia. It's been confirmed. What we've been saying for months is Putin had cancer. He had cancer surgery in April, and we don't think it was successful. He survived an assassination attempt, an attempted coup. And the latest news today is every year he has a marathon call-in session. And what that means is the average person from Russia can pick the phone up and talk to Vladimir Putin on this day. And it goes on for hours and hours. And people, he's not doing that this year. And it's been postponed without a date for rescheduling. Is this a sign that his health is failing? If it is, look for him to do something big. He's not going to want to go out and be remembered for what's happening now. I hope I'm wrong, as always, but something to think about, just connecting some dots here. And if Israel goes after Iran, and if Putin is now he could be just not taking the phone calls because he doesn't want to answer questions about Ukraine. All right, I want to make that perfectly clear too, because that is a distinct possibility. But I imagine the calls are screened pretty heavily before they ever get to him, and the fact that he's not doing it really leads me to believe he's probably sicker than people than he would like people to know, which makes him, in my opinion, more dangerous. The hearings we saw tonight is going to make Trump and Trump's supporters more dangerous. It is tightening the case that somebody asked me tonight. A great friend of mine asked, what do you think about this? And this ends with either Trump in jail, Trump taking a golf trip to a foreign country and never returning, or Trump calling his people to war. Because what we saw tonight was just the beginning, and this is just going to keep, and more evidence is going to keep coming out, and more people that have believed the lie are going to start seeing the truth. How many? That's yet to be seen. But I think enough are going to that. One of the big things that came out tonight was the number of Republican congressmen who asked for a pardon from Trump while he was still in office. He didn't give them give any of them any. But why were they asking for a pardon if they hadn't done anything wrong? A lot of people are going to be looking into that. And so the potential of the noose tightening very quickly and a call to violence across the country from the SALT army. If it ain't white, it ain't right. A lot of pride events coming this weekend. And again, in the middle of the week, the Department of Homeland Security sent out a warning to everyone, to the public, to the government, to the law enforcement, everybody, that domestic extremism is the number one threat still. And it listed schools, religious facilities, shopping malls, grocery stores, racial, ethnic, philosophical. So if you're a member of the LGBTQ plus community, a lot of pride events going on. It's Pride Month. At your events, it's going to be a soft target more than likely. A lot of fun. Everybody's all, happy and joyous. And just, I'm not saying don't be happy, don't be joyous. I'm just saying be aware of your surroundings, because you're going to be at a soft target. If you're at a kid's softball game, you're at a soft target. Again, we talked about somebody tried to get into an elementary school in Alabama earlier today, and the police stopped them. with deadly force. So, yeah, if you go out anywhere, be careful, have your head on a swivel. We talk about this a lot. Be prepared mentally. You go into a restaurant, know 2 or 3 ways to get out. You go into a supermarket, what's going to happen if I'm on an aisle, somebody starts popping them off? Because that's the state of our country. And that's what Department of Homeland Security was telling us. So it's official now. I've been telling you for weeks, but it's official now. All right. I'm going to get off here because I talked just a little bit longer than I thought I was going to. I love you all. I may be on tomorrow. I may not. It all depends on a couple of things. If you are a subscriber, thank you, of course, for subscribing. Consider hitting the bells so you get notified when, and I post generally when we're coming on live or when the episode's going to premiere. So you'll know when we're on. And hit the like button if you would, because that means more people will be watching this. And we want people to be aware of what's coming as far as this magnetic pole shift and what potentially could happen, because we can't tell you when a shooting's going to happen. We can predict, like this weekend I predict it's going to be a really bad weekend. I hope I'm wrong, but a lot of stuff can happen, like I talked about already, starting tomorrow, Friday, later on today. Now it's 12 a.m. on the 10th day of June in 2022. I thank you for watching, and again, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the share if you'd like. And if you're watching the rerun, leave a comment down below. My 3 books, links and working links to the books are in the description below for you to consider. 2 of them, I've got the Barnes and Noble link. Those 2 books are available just about anywhere worldwide. The 3rd book came out pandemic time, and it's just not in a large enough print at the moment to get out worldwide yet. It's only available on Amazon. I'm not sure if it's on sale at the moment or not. It fluctuates, but consider those if you would. If you'd like to help support this show, drop a few bucks in the Cash App. It's $americandufus.com. You want to email me, it's americandufus@gmail.com. And most important thing is keep watching, okay? Because we tell you things here that you're not going to hear on a lot of other places. And I love you for watching, and I thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you next time. And until then, blessings upon all of you. Blessings of peace, blessings of love, blessings of joy. Enjoy these times, because you never know when, a lot of people got really upset about wearing a mask. And we could be coming very quickly into times where all you had to do is wear a mask. Oh my gosh, I wish we could go back to that time. Just something to think about. Love you all.